What is going on, everybody? This is Slick from Breaking the Clutch, and today I am back with a new video. This is a very exciting game from start to finish. There are some incredible moments, and they all attribute to what I am about to talk about. Now, I've had a lot of people ask, Slick, how do I improve my middle to late game? Now, in particular, there are many factors that attribute to losing a mid to late game engagement. Sometimes you can have a very important battle that comes down to the wire, and because you lose it, it causes you to lose the game. And we're going to talk about those important factors that, like I said, attribute to the reasons why you lose or succeed in that part of a game. Now, if you have had the terrible experience of, say, rushing or having like a really strong opener or defense, and you kind of accidentally force yourself into mid to late game, we've all had that problem. You really need to know what is going on across the board. You need to know, say, what's going on the map, what your enemy's doing for builds, what strategies your enemy leaders generally use in that point of a game. And all of this is really learned from experience in playing the game as much as, say, some Champion and Onyx level players. Now, you don't necessarily have to be a Champion or Onyx player to have that level of experience or understanding. In particular, with this build here, we're actually playing, I believe, a Isabel Colony mix, which I've seen a lot. I've also seen some Isabel Atriox. Haven't really figured out the best reasoning for why people are using this combo, except for the fact that Isabel is absolutely incredible mid to late game. If you let an Isabel get to Tech 3, Nightingale Scorpion is one of the most intimidating things you could ever play against. Just from, say, hollow decoys, Ghost in the Machine, when they start taking over half your army, just all of a sudden start shooting at your army. It's absolutely insane. You're like, what the hell is going on? It's really hard to fight that. I honestly believe the Ghost in the Machine and Extraction are the two strongest leader powers in the game. That's Shipmaster's Extraction and Isabel's Ghost in the Machine. Absolutely crazy. Taking control of someone's units, man. Holy shit. So anyway, in this particular build, I was pretty excited because this is the first game we had where we didn't play a Chopper Rush, an Atriox or a Decimus. And of course, that is the strongest rush in the game right now, strongest opener. A lot of people have been running that and seeing a lot of success. You see it in team games almost every single game, because a player really needs to run it in order to... You can just run it. It's a pretty mindless build. You've heard me say it way back in the past with Jackrabbit Rush. You just smash A bunch of times, upgrade it once, and then all of a sudden you have an absolute universal killer army in the first 6 minutes. So in this game, since we weren't playing a Decimus or Atriox, it meant that I could opt in for an infantry build, which I'm really excited about, because that means we wouldn't see any scouts. I'm just assuming that, but I knew that if we would run into some scouts, we could at least handle this. Now, Presto is going an awesome build that I showed him a while back. It's a cutter infantry flame. It's a marine grenade flame rush. And I've seen a lot of success with it. So passing on to Preston, using it in 2v2s. It's the fastest infantry rush I can find for Cutter, and Cutter's fast as it is infantry. So teaching it to Preston and having him use it in every game has been incredibly successful for us as a group. So this is what we've been running. So this is the one particular game I was like, hey, I'm just going to run infantry and engineers and see how it goes. Now, of course, when playing Colony, skitterers are the most intimidating thing off the start. And of course, we see some engineer skitter off the rip. You guys have seen videos on this as well. I've talked about it a lot. It's a very popular build. Engineer skitterers with shield, just like Activator right there, are some of the strongest units you can get, say, in the first, at least most health-wise and most useful, in the first 4 minutes of the game. And of course, he's also going Goliaths here. So this dude is going all out, very universal. This build is very great. What you want to do in this particular scenario is focus down as many skitterers as you can and just try to hold off. Now, since Isabel is so good in second and third techs, you need to try to win the game in the first 5 minutes. That's what Preston and I attempted to do here. You're going to see an absolute slaughter fest here. Great marine defense here from this guy. Watch this. Oh my god, all my units fall right there. Luckily, I have a couple engineers just hanging on. Just one engineer now. As you're going to hear me, I'm just absolutely smashing the all units button, just trying to rally all 3 different sources of unit pump that I'm doing right now into one location. So with this particular setup, Preston and I kind of know we're losing. So as you can see right here, we're just pulling back. We're going to try to get some middle map control. Grabbing the nodes is very crucial. Everyone knows this. It's an incredibly successful idea if you're trying to, say, just control. And because what generally happens here, if you push up too far, you overcommit, lose all of your starting units, the enemy team can just push up a win, generally speaking. But if Presto and I can grab some power nodes, get some extra power, and rally back at our base and get up to Tech 2 as quick as possible, we're going to put ourselves in a really great spot. As you're going to see here, I'm saving up a lot of my power. I'm just opting in for a quick Tech 2 upgrade, just like I said, for my main base, and I'm just going to try to take some power nodes. As you're going to see here, Preston tried to take the middle node there, and unfortunately they were able to catch up with him and do a lot of damage to his units. So Preston is going to lose a big chunk of his Marine Flames right there. Now, luckily for Cutter, his production and speed with those infantry units is absolutely wonderful. So the fact that Preston lost a couple units isn't the end of the world. He can make a couple more, and then we can just rally back to our base. So as you're going to see here, I'm not really too worried about the situation. I'm still just capping points, making a lot of suicide grunts. Suicide grunts are extremely underrated, man. If you're not playing against a Cutter and they go infantry, then you can just most certainly melt every single unit on the map. As you're going to see here, I start pinging my base. I say, Preston, let's get right back here. I'm about to get tech 2, so we need to really establish a good defensive position. If you're up there, I can have some turrets up, have all my units up, engineers will have some good support. So Preston's like, okay. He's going to start rallying all of his units back, and we're going to get ready for a big initial push. And as we know, there's just Skitters, Engineers, Goliaths, and Marines with Grenade. Now that is probably just, it looks like it's all said and done for us, but as you can see, I've been making units this entire time with a heavy anti-infantry focus, knowing that they're going Goliaths, which are anti-infantry, and the Marines. Suicide grunts are going to be our saving grace in this scenario if we survive. As you're going to see, I see Preston there. I tell him to just rally up my units. We need to get on top of each other. I throw down a foundry, or at least attempt to, but the UI glitched out of me right there. And then I tell Preston, yo, you go for the front, I'm going for the back, and this is an excellent position here. But of course, Yellow walks in just in the nick of time. Look at the nade spam there. Preston does not throw enough nades there, loses a lot of his Marines to the other Marines. Yellow is just walking over Preston's units. Now, of course, I tell Preston, you need to stop where you are. Look at this excellent opportunity for a pinch here. Even like 2 suicide grunts would absolutely melt this army. But of course, I have 5. So here we go. I'm going to try to chase down. Excellent split here from Yellow. But of course, look at the massive engineer assault. Preston's losing every single unit, but look at every single Yellow unit here falling to every single one of the suicide grunts. Even that Goliath right there, I'm going to focus it and just melt it. Look how fast that fell. Red is like, oh shit, I just lost every single unit I just made. Yellow says, oh shit, I lost everything I made. So then we start, we just kind of get aggressive once again and try to retake control of the map. So now that's kind of been this back and forth twice thing, or we push their base, they killed all our units, then they push our base, we kill all their units. That means that we are in a very stalemated position where everybody is kind of like, well, shit, what do I do now with my eco? I have no idea what's going on. So what I'm doing is I threw down another power extractor because I know that what I want to do is very power heavy build. So what I'm thinking about when I think Isabel, I know that say vehicles are going to be her strong suit. That's what her leader power is all about. That's what she's all about. And of course, say that is what she's going to go for. That's the only reason why I'd be running Isabel over any other UNSC leader. So what I start doing immediately is throwing down a couple locusts just to get the extra range, just in case those sentinels, or I'm sorry, not sentinels, engineer Goliath start pushing us again and try to get a little bit extra control, because Preston with Cyclops can melt any vehicle. So if I just go right into foundries, then that means I can pump Locust and Reaver. Any area that tries to mess with us will just be absolutely null and void. And then, of course, any vehicles Preston will absolutely melt with his Cyclops. And the speed from Cyclops Cutterman is totally intimidating. So here we go. We have this great situation where we're just going to start slowly taking back the nodes and everything like that. So we're finally in a good spot. We're settling in for the mid to late game. I say the mid game starts at around maybe 9 minutes and goes till about 12 minutes. And the late game is anything beyond that. So because right about, say, 9 to 12 minutes is when the final tech kind of happens and you're like in a great spot. You have a great army composition and you're ready to go. So before I can jump into anything else, I want to talk about the 3 most important things that you need to think about when preparing to succeed in the mid to late game. As you can see here, this is going to be a very interesting engagement where I just try to take on all these Kodiaks with just a bunch of grunts. Absolutely silly maneuver here. And of course, look at the suicide grunts. They're just melting literally all of my units. Jesus Christ. I'm starting to make hunters. I reveal this. This is just so embarrassing. I start to rally all my units back. But of course, the engineer support is going to be extremely helpful from now on into the later part of the game. Now, the engineers actually play a good part into reason number 1, or the most important factor, I think, for the mid to late game for players that want to, say, start improving their mid to late game and making things a little bit better. That number 1 thing is army composition. Now, a lot of you could think, okay, yeah, that's given. Say army composition. This, like, a lot of you guys have asked me, Slick, what's the best army composition for a mid to late game? And I would tell you guys there is no such thing as a perfect go-to army composition. Doesn't matter who you're playing as, doesn't matter who your situation is. You need to work off of what has happened in the game. So in this game in particular, of course, we're doing 2v2, so it's a little bit different than a 1v1 or a 3v3, but in this particular scenario, we have seen, what have we seen so far? We've seen Goliaths, we've seen vehicles out of Isabel, and we've seen a bunch of infantry, okay? So what do we need to cover right now, okay? We need to cover anti-infantry and anti-vehicle. So what am I doing right now? I'm going a lot of Locust. Is that necessarily ideal? Not really, but the fact that Preston can just go Snipes and Cyclops and mix the two up means that I can just be that extra firepower that shoots off from a distance and kills just about everything. I've also been pumping out Hunters so Preston can do a little bit more of a focus onto snipers. So that kind of attributes to why the army composition is like this. In a 2v2 or 3v3 game, you also need to think of the army compositions of your teammates and everything else in the scenario. So as you can see here, this is another portion. This is number 2. The second most important thing after army composition is map vision. So how do you get better map vision on the map? That means constantly going for all the power nodes on the map, constantly just scouting around the map, just skirting around your base with your army, sometimes sending one unit out to see what's going on. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's one unit. It doesn't matter what kind of unit that is, man. If you think about it, one single unit is not a lot of eco. It doesn't matter unless it's a Scarab or a Condor. It's not the end of the world if you lose one single unit. So no matter what you got, like say in this scenario, I've got jump brutes, sorry. I got grunts and a little bit of everything. So as the fact that we see right in the middle of the map, we see lots of Scorpion tanks, Kodiaks, look at all these Marines. This is perfect right now. So what we know is that if they continue to push, Preston's anti-infantry units and anti-vehicle units will absolutely murder everything. Now this is a big engagement, like I'm saying. If you get through this mid-game engagement right here, then you are pushing on to late game for sure. So if we're able to win this, then we are most certainly going to delay the game even more. With the aggressive positioning of yellow and red team here in the middle of the map, we know that they mean business. So all we have to do is just constantly maintain control of our macro game here. Just let's say, as you can see, I'm just continuing to pump Locust, hopping back, upgrading all my units. Upgrades are extremely crucial as well, and just maintaining as many units as possible. Preston didn't lose a lot of his units there because I took the vehicles and split up all the units here. That was just an intercommunicational moment, and then Preston, of course, just starts to push in and assist me with these Kodiaks. Now, of course, once again, we're moving on to the third most important thing in the mid to late game. So as you can see here, we're almost in the late game. Like I said, after 12 minutes is starting to get in the late game. What do you need to focus on after you've already got map vision, or you start to focus on map vision and army composition? Well, the third most important thing is most certainly expansions. So the amount of expansions you have on the map, if it is 12 minutes into the game, man, and you don't have an expansion besides your main base, you're just in a really bad spot. And considering that, say, red and yellow in this particular scenario have had complete map control, so have in a forward aggressive position, constantly applying pressure to us in the middle of the map, they are just most certainly in the best spot possible. They've certainly taken expansions on their side of the map. Since Preston and I just have 2 bases total between us, our eco is nowhere near comparative to whatever red and yellow might have. And that's just assuming that they're running the game properly. It doesn't matter if you're winning or losing the scenario. If you don't have that map control, man, then they're most certainly just taking over the game. As you're going to see, I still haven't seen any air units, so I still have my double foundry up. That's a questionable decision there because I can most certainly just start opting in for a little bit of reaver play if I really needed to. Maybe sack one foundry, go double raid camp so I can get a little more hunters out. But in this particular scenario, like I said, I know for a fact Preston has both anti-infantry and anti-vehicles with Sniper Cyclops. So that is going to put him in a great position to defend my army while I just help them from the distance, move my hunters up as giant meat shields, and just start taking over the game. As you're going to see here, right around 12:30, I start to realize, you know what, we really need expansion. So we start to push up collectively as a unit here. Well, Preston's going to be slow, but I start highlighting like, yo, bro, you start walking with me, man. And he's like, okay. And notice these engineers I made at the beginning of the game, I've been saving. That's a very crucial part of this army composition right now, is keeping these engineers alive because I haven't gone Apex for a while. As you're going to see, Preston's infantry units here, we get a perfect opportunity with the map vision here that we have with the height advantage to just start sniping out all of these hunters from a distance. If we can kill the hunters ahead of time, then we can be in a great spot. Huge misclick there. I'm going to lose a lot of locusts. 3 locusts go down there at the same time just from that canister shell. And all we need to do is just maintain this aggressive defense that we have. I know it's kind of it's an oxymoron, but it most certainly is a great job defending here with aggression at the same time. As you're going to see, we're just kind of outspeeding all those hunters. Those hunters are not keeping up because this guy is choked entirely and not sent out his hunters alone. This is going to put us in a great position to continue to defend. I put the locusts on the high ground. We have the high ground. And as you're going to see here as well, we start to see with our scouts that they have a lot of hollow decoys on these Scorpion tanks. Notice that he started splitting up his units and sending it back. Now, the Hunter Speed, man, is so good. Hunter Speed is so fantastic. I absolutely love that they updated the Hunter Speed. It puts them in a great position to chase down Scorpion tanks and do a big amount of damage. As you're going to see here, we finally pushed them back to a point where they're kind of in the middle of the map again. And Preston and I are like, you know what, man? Now's our perfect opportunity to push. Their army size is extremely small. We get a good look on what we're looking at, and we just start to get more and more aggressive. Now, if we kill these tanks here, now is a perfect opportunity, just as I do right here, to take the expansion. Now, that is exactly what we need to do, is just continuously push back as much as possible to kind of take over. And as you're going to see, very poor rally point here out of yellow. Bringing an extra Scorpion tank in the middle of the map, man, my Locusts are just going to absolutely drop that from a distance. And as I've been doing this the entire game, I've been upgrading my units as much as possible. You see a lot of Elite Rangers. I don't really care about those because they just drop to Locusts, so I'm just going to keep skirting around. I really don't want the enemy team to know about my Expo, because if I can get that up, then that means that we are in a better position to make a comeback in this game. Now, Preston is just doing a great job here once again. He's making lots of Cyclops, he's making lots of Snipers, and just trying to run them through the middle of the map as much as possible. Of course, both of those units are very power heavy, so one basing is not ideal. As you can see, Preston does a double Expo as well. It's very risky for both players to double Expo at the same time, but we've officially pushed them back to the point where we're taking their power nodes, kind of taking over the map and doing a great job of just continuing the aggression. We're kind of doing like a downhill rolling snowball, just getting bigger and badder as we just continue our push. As you can see here, I found Yellow's expansion off the bat. It's very great. My Expo goes up. I'm sitting on a lot of power right now. Most certainly a great opportunity to start dropping, to start expoing and grabbing that extra building space. Starting to get more production units up, starting to get more production buildings, getting a war council, start upgrading my army size and all of that. As you're going to see, 15 minutes of the game, the enemy team's aggression has been so great that they have managed to keep me under upgrading my population to 100 and getting that extra reinforcement. So it's kind of a great play out of them. But as you're going to see here, we start to flank right up to Yellow's base. I know that I can take all those vehicles if I get aggressive on his main. Preston's been slowly following me up because I know once we show up here that if there aren't any infantry units out of red team, then or out of the red guy, then we can just absolutely melt everything. And of course, with the Hunter Squadron here leading the charge, we are going to absolutely drop these Scorpion tanks that start to come out. My Locust will just focus his main base as we start to talk about. Great Mac Blast there. I almost extracted my units out. I was just a little too slow. But it's okay because I only lost, I think, 2 units there. 2 Locusts maybe, or 1 Locust and 1 Hunter. I'm just going to get my pump going on. And then, of course, once you got the engineer support there from the colony leader. But I'm just going to sit here and focus down the Scorpion tanks as they come out. You look at all the Scorpion tanks coming out of yellow here. I'm pretty sure some of those are hollow decoys. So I'm just going to focus a couple there. I'm going to start calling up my my Hunter squadrons. They look at that. They focus down every single Locust. That is so good out of them. I'm just going to repump because I've been saving all my money this entire time. I should also, yep, there we go. I'm going to start focusing on my Expo, pumping out a lot of units. But of course, Preston is just trying to just stay alive here with his Marines. He should really be nading the absolute shit out of these Scorpion tanks. There it goes. Then, of course, look at all the snipe fire there onto Red Army's units. They're just not going to last that long. Preston dropping in ODSTs. I just want my 1 Hunter just continually, or both my Hunters there, just continually chase down those tanks and just kill them. Because you only need really 2 tanks per, 2 Hunters per tank. They will just continually attack them until they just completely melt. So as you're going to see here, got a lot of power I'm sitting on right now. Just starting to rally my units across the map. Preston managed to kill every single red unit with his perfect army composition, as I stated earlier. Those Hunters from red team aren't going to really be necessary at all, considering that, well, guess what? All the vehicles are dead. And of course, I'm just going to constantly use my Hunters to skirt around Yellow's base and melt his tanks. Now, as you're going to see here, we've lost just about every single unit, but the rally across the map, as you can see, just a lot of little blue and light blue dots just skirting their way inch by inch across the map to get in this engagement. They are going to extremely help us out because Yellow has just been set back so far at this moment. It is not looking good for them at all. And as you're going to see here, I'm just going to kind of go around, finally upgrading my main base to Tech 3. Literally at 17 minutes, almost 18 minutes. That is just stupid long time. It's really disappointing that it's come to this point, but that's kind of what happens if the enemy team is pressuring you properly. Then, of course, we got the Hunters walking up here, and this is pretty much game for Yellow. Preston, of course, having his Marines and ODSTs staying alive this entire time. Doing a great job. Oh my god, the range from those Rangers are really going to melt all of Preston's units, but my Locusts just showed up in the nick of time, and they will really help out with the scenario. Preston losing all of his snipers right there. I just need to keep my Hunters alive. I still have 1 engineer from the beginning of the game. That is just excellent. And I finally also have, I have mass cloaking available. I have displacement available. I have extraction available. All these things are just absolutely wonderful. So one of my favorite moments from this game is the big pressure push we did after we took out, say, that big initial push they did at around, say, 11 minutes. Just conquering that army and then starting to get aggressive has led to this point in the game where Preston and I are just constantly pressuring the Yellow team. constantly pressuring his base, killing all of his units that come out, and just causing them to just go in absolute oh shit mode. See, we've been pressuring this base so long that he's been able to get 2 engineer supports coming out of this out of the red player to assist his base. And of course, with the close air support from Presto, and all of my units now just showing up on the red units, just melting all of them, giving him a little bit of support. Will the engineer survive? He's one shot. Looks like the engineer might go down. Oh my god. Nope, engineer does survive. We get to the point where we can officially push up to red, and yellow's base does fall. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This is kind of my quick breakdown. Like I said, the 3 most important things. Number 1 would be army composition. Number 2 is map vision. And number 3 is expansions. Those 3 things are your biggest focus while you are controlling a game in the mid to late game, or at least running a game, I should say, because if you are doing these 3 things and paying very close attention to them, then you're putting yourself in such an advantageous position that you most certainly will start to see better results in your gameplay. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of this match as it plays out. We'll see if Red can survive this Slick and Presto onslaught. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Slick from Breaking the Clutch, and I'll see you guys next time. Well, guys, as I was wrapping up the editing to this video, I noticed, you know what, I totally forgot to give a shout out to the BtC Discord. Guys, if you check down in the video description below, you will see a link to the Discord channel. Join that up. We're about to hit 100 followers on the Discord. It's been awesome, all you guys coming out from the BtC channel over to the BtC Discord server. Lots of abilities to say you hop in there, you can meet up with people, join up into parties, talk with people, play some games, ask about strategies, watch videos, talk about videos, a little bit of everything. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. If you've watched this far, you are the best. Thank you for checking out the BtC Fam Discord server. That would mean a lot to me and the BtC guys. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching once again. Thanks.